Hello, our truth warriors. It's Chris here from the Atlantic Underground podcast. For many years now, people have asked me where the best place to go to buy precious metals. We're talking silver, we're talking gold, we're talking platinum. There's only one place I would recommend people go in this day and age for fast delivery, for excellent customer service, and that is Miles Franklin. They have been the best supplier right throughout Canada, right throughout the US, and posting all around the world. I do suggest you check them out. You're going to find the links here in this video to contact them. And if you use the code AU for Atlantic Underground, you're going to get the VIP service and they're going to take great care of you. Fast delivery, best prices, best service. You cannot go wrong. Miles Franklin. Check them out, everyone, and you'll thank me later. Thank you.
Hello, our truth warriors. Welcome back to the Atlantic Underground, where, as always, we deliver the greatest minds and information that you will not find on your TV. And you might see it on many media platforms online, but as the powers that be continually try and stop important information being exposed, we are in a battle to get this content out there. So if you would, please share this far and wide. The battle against the big tech stripping our rights and freedom is very real. And knowing how and why they are doing this is important for you to navigate this building of your invisible prison. Today's guest is a whistleblower with ties in his career to Google, and you should listen to what he has to say today and be aware of what we are facing. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm proud to introduce a fellow truth warrior, Sasch. How are you, sir?
I'm just fine, thank you very much. It's been a hell of a journey, hasn't it?
Just a bit, yeah, and enough to make your head spin. I can put it that much.
I've been, dare I say, in bed with Google since 2006, and I've severed my ties earlier this year.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a journey, and I've seen the company go from a bunch of starry-eyed idealists in 2006 with the people I was working with to mindless corporate drones by about 2015.
Yeah. No, I can well imagine. It's been pretty insane. Tell us about the work that you were doing with Google.
I got into Google's frontline webmaster support back in 2006, which at the time was just a community of people that were helping each other with, Google's guidelines, with websites, with the newly developing commercial internet. And we were just kind of all there milling around, just helping all and sundry, ranging from, small mom and pop online businesses to big corporations, from airlines and car manufacturers and whatnot, because it was Google's own support system. And so in 2008, I got approached by Google going, yo, we've got something cool we'd like to share with you, but you're going to need to sign an NDA. And I'm like, okay, yeah, no problem. I'll sign an NDA. And that's at that point in time, they actually put together their product experts program, which was a bunch of external specialists. Now, at that time in 2018, there were actually 18 of us worldwide that were called into this. And we were, how do I put this? We were the buffer, I suppose. Yeah, we were sufficiently familiar with Google's systems and infrastructure after being, part of the support system for a couple of years, and we'd lived and breathed, the way Google was doing business with. At the time, I mean, it was still pretty ethical. Google was fairly above board until, say, about 2013. And so they brought us in to be the external consultants to sometimes say the things that Googlers couldn't say publicly, and to disseminate, information about updates and what have you. And as a result of that, I suddenly found myself in this rise to global prominence as one of these 18 guys, or guys and girls, I should say. I mean, we even back then, we were almost 50% women, and they're tough. But yeah, I found myself sort of this rise to prominence, and I was invited to conferences and just basically representing the grassroots of the internet, really the street level view of what was going on out there in the big wide commercial world. And that's the way it was, just between 2008 and 2013. I would say, I don't know, I helped hundreds of companies, but some big ones, some European airlines. I did a small gig for Microsoft Cloud. But I mean, it was really all over the place. And I mean, it was during that time, it was helping companies get out of trouble with Google. Yeah, because no, I mean, at the time, their Google's webmaster guidelines, Google's rules and regulations for quality content and whatnot, they were still, I would say, enforced fairly. Yeah, back in the old Google. Right. And then between 2013 and 2015, I found that the game was starting to change. Instead of applying the rules fairly across the board, Google would favor its corporate cronies. Yeah. As shareholder value was put above informational freedom and quality content, the company spent, I would say, 2 years evolving to where the big boys were getting most of the pie and the little boys were being suppressed. And as this happened, my role started to change, where I turned from somebody who helped companies succeed progressively to somebody who actually helped companies stave off Google and fight, I won't say censorship at the time, but fight the algorithmic downmarking of the little guy.
Yeah. Now, with the non-disclosure agreements, does everyone have to sign a non-disclosure agreement with working for Google?
If you're anything to do with Google at any kind of corporate level, whether you're a contractor or whether you're an employee, yeah, you have to sign NDAs. There are various levels of NDAs.
Yeah. Okay. Would it be fair to say that Google is a system that is now weaponized in its capabilities?
Google has been weaponized in its capabilities for some years now, and I'll pick that up where I left it off a minute ago, because by 2015, Google had become more or less what it is now, right? As part of my stint prior to 2015, I'd be at the various Google plexes in, California and in Ireland and Germany and what have you. Once, twice, 3 times a year, training sessions, conferences, what have you. And I during that time, I made close relationships with quite a few of the Google staff in the various places, to the point where, you go, hey, I'm here for the weekend. Do you want to go for a meal? Stuff like that. By 2015, most of that old guard had been driven out of the company. They'd all, moved on to better opportunities, but as it turned out later, they were basically inconvenient to Google's developing corporate vision of how it wanted to do business. And so by 2015, it was staffed by the brightest and most beautiful college leavers that had all the academic credentials, but no life experience, and basically could be molded into, Google's vision of what it wanted its staff to be. Now, at that point in time, a year later, you have the Donald Trump election, and we all know how it's no secret how much Google, for want of a better word, whined after that. I mean, if you haven't seen the Thank God It's Friday meeting the morning after Trump's election, and what was said by, a co-founder and various department heads about how bad exactly this was. Mm-hmm. And it was at that moment that Google's weaponization actually really kicked into high gear.
Yeah, definitely. Now, my fear is the ability of artificial intelligence and the way that that's moving forward now. How intelligent is artificial intelligence in what its capabilities are?
This is the can of worms in it. I mean, you ask 6 different people, you'll get 10 different answers. From what I've seen, and I have no special knowledge of Google's AI programs beyond, I still know a few people inside the company, and occasionally somebody else say something. But it depends on what sort of artificial intelligence you're talking about. If you're talking about the common or garden variety that everybody's talking about now, your chat GPTs and your Google Geminis and what have you, they're really just large language models, and they have no reasoning power, they have no sentience, and they've certainly got no creativity. All they can do is cobble together an answer or imagery, as the case may be, out of whatever you ask them, whatever your query prompt is. To me, what is a far bigger thing is what's called organoid intelligence, which is where the Japanese have been great leaders in this field, but you're actually using biological matter, for want of a better word, cloned brain cells to actually aid your processing. And right now, officially, the industry is at the point where they are working with clusters of brain cells about the equivalent size of a fly's brain, housefly. That's the official narrative. Is there anything more to it? I don't know. I have no evidence. I know I'm doing a bunch of research, so things could change in the next 5 minutes. But as far as it goes, to me, the moment you are bringing biological matter in the form of brain cells into your computing, then that there could be any kind of ghost in that machine, and it could conceivably turn into the Terminator Skynet. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's got the ability to be fully conscious, and especially when you're using human brain cells. That's my concern. Now, there is something that is quite concerning, and this is in regards to a video we spoke about earlier. Can you tell us what White Stork is?
White Stork is a military drone development company, which is, I believe, headquartered in Estonia. I believe it's actually Eric Schmidt's military drone company, and it's headquartered, I believe, and don't quote me on it, but I think it's Estonia. And it's very much a question of, its mission appears to be to actually build cheap hardware, cheap drones, to take on, multi-million and billion-dollar weapon systems from enemy actors. To me, there's a rabbit hole there, which combined with some of the other projects, like Google's project Nimbus, could potentially be weaponized against entire populations, or even just cells of dissidents. I guess I don't know whether you want to delve deeper into that, or whether you want to get into this later.
No, I'll come back to Nimbus in a minute. But let me just recap on what we just said there, because it's like people are probably sitting there trying to absorb this right now. Eric Schmidt of Google,
yes,
has a military drone company in Estonia.
Yes, he formed. It was announced. I don't know when he formed the company, but it was actually announced in January this year that Eric Schmidt is now a licensed arms dealer, basically. And in his words, he's had to learn about war because he wants to prevent war. And to me, I mean, I can tee up some videos and send you over some videos of his own words that you can, put out to your audience. I don't have them ready, but yeah.
Do we have a video ready with that little drone thing that we looked at earlier?
Yeah, it has to be prefaced that this is a 5-year-old video that was basically a short film.
Yeah.
But with everything that's coming together now, it seems to be
This is going to get
highly pertinent. Do you want me to play the whole thing? Or just a segment?
No, let's just play that first section showing what the drones are capable of, because this is basically where we're at with the technology right now.
The technology for this exists. Okay, so give me a second. I'll tee this up.
Yeah.
Can you see it?
Not yet.
Share.
There we go. Okay, everyone, just take a look at this if you would. This is kind of interesting. It's going to get you a good idea of where we are right now. Go on, Sash, let's play that.
Customer pilots directed almost 3,000 precision strikes last year. We're super proud of it. It allows you to separate the bad guys from the good. It's a big deal. But we have something much bigger. Your kids probably have one of these, right? Not quite. Hell of a pilot? No. That skill is all AI. It's flying itself. Its processor can react 100 times faster than a human. The stochastic motion is an anti-sniper feature. Just like any mobile device these days, it has cameras and sensors, and just like your phones and social media apps, it does facial recognition. Inside here is 3 grams of shaped explosive. This is how it works. Did you see that? That little bang is enough to penetrate the skull and destroy the contents. They used to say guns don't kill people, people do. Well, people don't. They get emotional, disobey orders, aim high. Let's watch the weapons make the decisions. Now, trust me, these were all bad guys.
Okay.
Now that is an airstrike of surgical precision.
I think we've seen enough, don't you?
I think that's enough to give people an idea of where the tech is currently, and certainly what Eric Schmidt with his drone company is developing. Now, yeah, all good.
That should be okay.
Yeah, considering that Eric Schmidt has expanded his horizons to such a level, is it likely that the likes of Larry Page and Sergey Brin are just frontmen for something more clandestine, like we have seen with things like Operation Mockingbird, and Facebook obviously having CIA involvement as well? Is this who's really pulling the strings, is what I'm saying?
I would have to say your guess is as good as mine, and I can't really comment on Larry Page, but something very, very interesting happened to Sergey Brin over the years. And again, funnily enough, we're back to 2015. I'll get into that in a second. But Sergey Brin is, as you may know, the son of Russian dissidents. And they escaped Russia, back in the late 70s, I believe. And throughout his entire life, publicly and whatnot, Brin has very much been anti-totalitarian and has spoken out against totalitarian regimes. Now, in 2015, he and the more or less newly appointed Google CEO Sundar Pichai went on an extended business trip to China, ostensibly to promote its new artificial intelligence system, which was playing the Asian strategy game Go. to challenge Chinese Go players, and that was the reason for the trip back in 2015. Well, they were over there for some time, and when Brin came back, all of a sudden, the stance had changed, and these CCP guys, they're not all bad. It's what Google may go back into China, and then it was almost like, who are you? What have you done with Sergey? With the way the transformation happened.
Yeah.
Now again, there have been this is no huge secret, and there's all sorts of rumors that he'd been cloned and what have you. I don't personally subscribe to that, but I do think that during that trip, his perceptions were altered, whether it was through narrative or conferences or whatnot, because the pre-2015 Sergey and the post-2015 Sergey seem to be fundamentally different. So who pulls the strings? Your guess is as good as mine, but someone is.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned a little bit earlier when we were talking about White Stork, and we showed that drone video, but we briefly touched upon Project Nimbus. What is Project Nimbus, and who has this been developed for?
Project Nimbus is, again, it's an AI project, and it's to all intents and purposes basically surveillance. What makes Project Nimbus stand apart is its scope. It's with Google in the lead. It's a collaboration with Apple and Microsoft. Now, right there, you've basically got your unholy trinity of evil mega corporations right there. But what's more alarming is that the whole thing is in collaboration, and a lot of people say at the behest of the Israeli government in general, and Mossad in particular.
Yeah.
Now, Israel's involvement in it is no great secret. The question is, what's its scope and what's its overall purpose? Because quite frankly, it's bad enough having the CIA with his fingers in pies like this, but to have Mossad, in the mix is to me an unacceptable level of governmental penetration of big data wholesale surveillance, especially where, where in this world are you going to get away from either Apple or Microsoft or Google?
Yeah.
Right. This is global wholesale. If I really wanted to get into it, I would actually get into the voice pattern and the voice print recognition of all the mobile devices, and how even if you're using a burner phone, the devices all around you as you interact will actually pick up your voice, match its voice print, and then build a pretty accurate picture of who's where. But that would be sounding paranoid if I were to go into that.
Yeah. So it's beyond the scope of using triangulation from cell towers anymore. They can just use voice recognition to pinpoint somebody, and probably, other devices as well. Now, is it true that the Google CPU, its name is Adreno, and its browser, of course, as most people know, is called Chrome? To me, that is too much of a coincidence for the fact that we've got one called Adreno and the other one called Chrome. I'm sure people can piece this together in the mind.
I have no idea what you're talking about. No, seriously. Right. It's not Adreno is not Google's creation or Google's monster, and it's not a CPU. It's a GPU. It's a graphics processing unit, and it's developed by a company called Qualcomm, however you want to pronounce it, which ostensibly on the surface of it has absolutely nothing to do with Google. However, there's a but. There's always a however. There's always a but. The graphics processing unit Adreno is actually used in all of Google's smartphone and tablet technologies, and to a degree in its Chromebooks as well. So the Google manufactured hardware, the Google manufactured hardware uses the Adreno graphics processor in its native architecture. And for this. It's also being used for the rendering of graphics, such as if you're watching this particular podcast on an Android smartphone, you're using the Adreno graphics processing unit.
Yeah. No,
is the whole thing coincidental? The two came into being very closely, not at the same time, but very closely together. And it's certainly, again, I have no information. Would I venture a guess that it's a coincidence? I would have to say it's a bit too much of a coincidence. Can I say why and how? I have no idea.
I'm sure the boys at these levels mix in with the people that they mix with. And certainly, as we said a little bit earlier, who's pulling the strings? I would imagine that those who are pulling the strings and have the power to have oversight of Google are also the very people that get involved with that kind of thing anyway. So, yeah, probably not a coincidence. Probably another laugh at the public again, just taunting them to say what they're doing, but without admitting what they're doing. And that in itself is quite scary. Now, it appears that they're up to no good. And that now brings my attention to Google Earth and its capabilities. Where was this developed and why do they have it? And what's the real purpose with Google Earth?
Google Earth was originally a project called Keyhole, which was in itself funded by, that's actually a good question. Who funded Keyhole? Keyhole was funded by In-Q-Tel, which is the CIA's venture capital firm, because if you're an international intelligence agency, you obviously have to have venture capital. But as far as it goes, it really was to build a satellite imagery model of the planet, which in 2004 was purchased by Google and then put together with the newly conceived Google Maps infrastructure, which had been bought from a pair of Scandinavians living in Australia. That one apparently seems to have been a private project that wasn't in any way government funded. And there was another company called ZipDash, which was acquired. Earth Maps and ZipDash were acquired much at the same time during a 6-month span. And ZipDash was the beginnings of Google's real-time traffic reporting. Yeah, actual traffic surveillance, because again, the Maps system is, for want of a better word, crowdsourced. So if you're using Google Maps and you're driving down the road and you see, oh, there's a traffic jam ahead, that's because every other Maps capable device running maps on that road is reporting back to the mothership, and it's going, oh, traffic's just slowed down from 40 miles an hour to 27 or whatever it happens to be. Yeah. And the map system then reflects that in more or less real time within sort of a 5 or 10 second window. Where was I? Oh yeah. As far as it goes, the Earth system, which, as I said, originally was funded by the CIA's venture capitalist firm, and Google, of course, is itself in its inception was DARPA funded, and DARPA still, for my money, has a big hand into it. And I would say that the components were brought together for a purpose that was larger than giving you up-to-date traffic information. I'm going to throw Boston Dynamics into the mix. Whether you've heard of Boston Dynamics, it's the maker of the killer robot, the Atlas, and you see the robo-dogs on TV. That's a Boston Dynamics. That's a Boston Dynamics product. Now, what is lesser known is that Boston Dynamics was also acquired by Google back in 2013. And when the acquisition was made public, after the blowback of the potential military applications of these robots, we've already seen robo-dogs with machine guns fitted to them. Yeah. after the potential military applications of these robots went public, Google then sold the company to a Southeast Asian, I think it was a hedge fund or a venture capital firm. I'd have to look it up. And things kind of went quiet. Boston Dynamics was bragging about its advances, and rightly so. I mean, its robots now do somersaults and climb ladders and all sorts of things. What most people don't realize is that last year, the year before, the company was then sold on to and again, I can't remember the name at this point, to a new firm that you cannot find out anything about. The company that now owns Boston Dynamics has no Wikipedia entry. It has no disclosed financial. It has done nothing. And you can make of that one what you will, but the point is that the maps of Earth data and infrastructure is integral to these robots. Yeah, the GPS data from the maps system is being used to actually tell these things where they are. Absolutely. And so, again, it's how paranoid would you care to be about this? I mean, for my money, there's too much to be a coincidence. Can I say, aha, it's because of this? I don't know. I can only ask questions. What do you make of it?
Yeah.
Is it? Yeah, and it's a question each viewer has to answer for his or herself. Is it too much of a coincidence? I can only give the pieces. You have to build your own Meccano set.
Yeah.
And then for all British viewers, Meccano was a children's play system made out of girders and screws and various things where budding engineers could.
Oh yeah, I remember it well.
Build man traps, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, did like me Meccano when I was a kid.
Mm.
Can Google Earth be used now that there was accusations about certain NASA photography that's been showing areas of grey being blanked out and stuff where people couldn't see certain things that obviously were there but blanked out? Is it possible that the likes of Google Earth is doing something to hide certain things deliberately on Google Earth so people aren't aware that they are there?
This isn't actually a huge secret. Yes, absolutely. It was first brought to the public attention when certain, and to begin with, the areas would just be pixelated. You'd be scanning Google Earth, you'd run into this pixelated area where you couldn't see what was underneath, and fueled all sorts of, wild and weird conspiracy theories. And then Google came out and publicly made a statement that they were governmentally sensitive installations under that pixelation, and that it was deliberately pixelated out. And of course, the conspiracies continued to fly. And since then, I believe what's actually been done is the offending installations and what have you have now been covered with fake imagery rather than pixelated. So not only do you not see that there's something underneath it, it blends in perfectly naturally with its surrounding satellite imagery. So no, I mean, you can't 100% be sure of anything you're really looking at unless you're standing underneath it and go, oh yeah, that building's there.
Yeah, that's it. Or the area. Now,
Exactly.
speaking about what do you know about Google buying a company called DeepMind?
DeepMind was acquired in, again, I want to say 2015, 2016. It was a British AI company that was founded by a group of British computer geniuses. And it was initially DeepMind initially was funded by the likes of Elon Musk and whatnot, and some money, which again it's pretty opaque. So there could be dark money involved. I don't know. When Google acquired it, DeepMind was actually working with the NHS, the British National Health Service. And in the acquisition, Google acquired something like 1.5 million, 1.6 million sets of patient records, identifiable, medical diagnosis, prescription medicines, doctor's notes, whatnot, which Google acquired, and this fact got leaked, and prompting Google to go, "Oh no, we have no data. It's not us." And then facts got leaked further, and Google went, "Yeah, we have the data after all, but we hold it legally." And then they were challenged on the legality, and eventually they destroyed the data, admitted to it, and then they destroyed it. But that's kind of by the by. That's just speaking about Google's stance towards acquiring information and then denying being in possession of the information until it's proven otherwise. But DeepMind was merged with Google Brain, which was Google's own in-house AI program at the time, still kind of very much in its infancy. Yeah. And it has since been turned into Google DeepMind, and now it, I believe, runs Google's own front-end AI, which is Google Gemini,
right?
Which has in itself been trained on questionable data, or data obtained through questionable means, shall we say?
Well, they've got the biggest spy network in the world. I'm sure they can obtain whatever they want. And speaking of obtaining information, we've got something called Google Assistant, which is like Alexa. Is this something that listens, reports, and is able to condition people's minds to, think the answers that it's given to them once asked? Is it a very similar platform to Alexa? Because I've seen something very interesting this week where Alexa would only give information on one thing, but not another thing, saying, it was just seemed so biased in what it could do. What are you aware of about the capabilities of Google Assistant, and for people that have this in their home, what can it be doing?
Let me start with my own experience. Okay, I run Android phones, and there was a time when Google would give me a new phone every year. That has long since stopped. But back in the days when I was still using Google Assistant, I would be driving along the road, I'd be talking to other people in the car, and all of a sudden, Assistant would pipe up. But one day, I actually said, "I wasn't talking to you." Quite a harsh tone of voice, and the thing actually replied, "Sorry, deleting now," right? Implying that it was actually recording. Well, yeah, and again, another friend and colleague of mine had to discuss this is going back 5 or 6 years now. Another chap over in England, he had a discussion with his wife because his wife wouldn't believe that the thing was listening 24/7 and was actually grooming advertising based upon what it was overhearing. And so he started very tactfully throwing the term chainmail underwear into the conversation with his wife. And after about 72 hours, sure enough, she was getting ads for chainmail lingerie in her day-to-day browsing activities. You know who you are if you're watching. So is it listening? Absolutely, 100%. And they can say, "Oh, we're only listening for the watchwords, and we don't do anything with it." I don't buy it. It's my opinion. My personal opinion is that they're lying.
Yeah,
I have no proof other than my own observations. But no, I honestly, and same with Alexa, same with Siri. It listens to you 24/7.
Yeah. And we can only surmise what kind of nights people have with chainmail underwear. Now, when you go to the Google search, we often see many different themes in the logo. These are called Google Doodles. They seem to have, when I see them, some kind of subliminal message regarding the times or whatever's going on within them. That can influence, obviously, thoughts and searches by people. Once you're in a search, the information can be withheld, I think, showing you only what they want you to see and know. Does this make Google the biggest censorship tool out there, giving power beyond conventional media?
Let me start with the Doodles themselves, because again, this goes back to pre-2015. I used to know quite a few of the guys in the Doodles team, and they were just very kind of chilled artists. So we, sometimes have lunch together and what have you. Again, most of those guys were replaced, and the whole thing kind of morphed. Not only in the events that Google would cover with its Doodles, like it has, for the most part, dutifully ignored Christmas, for instance, in favor of all kinds of weird and wonderful stuff that aren't really relevant to most humans in the West.
Yeah.
And as for the subliminal messaging, there's not every doodle, but you'll get doodles where you really have to look and go, what's this all about? This has little or nothing to do with the actual event or historical person or whatnot that it ostensibly relates to. So is there a deeper meaning to it? Could be. I don't know. It makes you think why they would put some of these obelisks and what have you, symbology into the doodles.
Yeah.
With regards to Google being the biggest censorship machine, without a shadow of a doubt, Google built its global audience on delivering the best result, the most relevant results to a user query. It did so with amazing accuracy to the point where all of the search engines basically paled into insignificance because Google could more or less get a hit on the first page for whatever you wanted. And so again, back to 2015. By 2015, Google had acquired a global search market share of about 90%, 89.5, 91.5, whatever it was. And with that flip in the corporate philosophy and the increasing deployment of, shall we say, human interference in the actual search results when the queries related to stuff which Google did not ideologically agree with, it became very much the censorship engine because its audience, for the most part, are just normal day-to-day people. They just, I want the sports result or the weather report or whatever I want, and now I want to know who to vote for. Well, if then Google, physically gives me nothing but negative results about one candidate, nothing but positive results the other candidate, how much did that sway me? Now, back in subsequent to the Trump election, there's a guy out there called Professor Robert Epstein. I don't know whether you've ever had him on, but he's done extensive studies about Google's ability to sway voters, to sway the vote. And he reckons that Google can affect, I think he claims like a 10% change. Robert Epstein and I were in a brief email exchange at the time where I offered to actually help him with his inquiries, and he went, "Oh, you're under NDA with Google, you're a spy." And I can understand it, that he didn't follow through with it. But some of his work, if you can actually get him on your podcast, that would be well worthwhile. And Google censorship has only increased since those days.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy, really. Now, does Google have a public safety department, and what would be its purpose?
This basically follows on directly from the censorship end of things, because as in the wake of the 2016 Trump election, where, like I said, the infamous TGI Friday video where everybody was whining about the election result, how do I put this? I guess Google's need and mission to show the world what to think has increased, and in the wake of that, at the time in 2016, they had a relatively small team of what was called search quality raters. Yeah, and it was a few hundred human contractors that would basically check its search results, for quality. It's like, if this chainmail lingerie page more relevant to the search query than that chainmail lingerie. It was stuff like that. Well, in the wake of the 2016 election, the team got expanded, and I believe, again, don't quote me, but I think there's topside of 100,000 search quality raters out there now, globally in the various languages. And the remit has basically started to include misinformation. Yeah, this came to the forefront during COVID, when the results were physically checked for sites and outlets that were counter to the official narrative, and physically stuff that was anti-vax or what have you got deep-sexed very, very deliberately, and mainly due to initially human interference, but then later through AI, data mining, and on the video side of it, voice analysis, which is why YouTube channels keep getting banned if they use the wrong words, because the system will automatically pick it up.
Yeah. Now, here's something that worries me. Google have built a human brain interface chip similar to what Elon Musk was developing with Neuralink. But this interface chip that effectively allows people to not have to think for themselves, like a Google search, where they can just think something and they're automatically told the answer, which opens a huge can of worms as to what that could be used for, good and bad. Is this, as I see it, a technology that could enslave humanity?
I know very little about the actual tech level of this, beyond a few bits and pieces that I've read. To me, any cyber implant in the human brain is inherently dangerous. Could it be used to enslave humanity? If the technology is taken in the wrong direction and falls into the wrong hands, absolutely. I mean, we've already seen any number of studies where the light emissions from your device or a screen can influence your moods. Can't tell you what to think, but it can make you depressed or ecstatic or what have you. Similar with audio frequencies. So personally, would I get a brain chip implant if I could have access to the world's information by merely thinking about it? Absolutely, 100% not, because of the ethical and quite frankly manipulative implications that would potentially bring with it. Like I said, do I know what they're doing and how they're doing it?
No. But there is, as people, people can go out there and research as well. There's lots of information pointing towards where this is possibly going. And as much as Elon Musk with the Neuralink side of things, he is kind of making the promises that his brain chip is being developed to help people with disabilities. But to me, there appears to be a major flip side to that, because the moment you have something that's tapped into your brain that allows, especially when we were well aware that, they are now using, big tech is using brain cells to power its big tech. The quantum computing side of things needs something that can process things faster. So there could be a very severe flip side to something that is directly tapped into the neural pathways of the brain, because if that has the capabilities of upgrades, the same as every phone upgrades and computer upgrades, at some point it's very likely that the human brain could actually be hackable. And in being hackable, it means that if a AI computer wanted to use the human brain to power itself, it would possibly have access to the ultimate conscious computer. I mean, I might be going a little bit far into the conspiracy theories here, but this is a very distinct possibility in the way I look at it. Have you any thoughts on, whether that would be possible?
Like the guy in the video, the keynote speaker in the video earlier said, guns don't kill people, people kill people. But really, as far as it goes, again, this is very much this is very close to what makes us human, right? And you can turn around and you can get into the soul aspect of things. And again, as a techie, I'm supposed to be one of these atheist guys. It's all an accident. And first there was nothing, and then it exploded.
Yeah.
But I have seen and experienced too much to discount the existence of a soul, or a universal consciousness, whatever you want to call it. And so the moment you are messing with, I'm going to call it God's creation. Why the hell not? The moment you're messing with God's creation at the internal level, what are you really doing? And yes, I don't deny the positive applications of the technology, but the door is open to so much unethical activity, and as is increasingly proven by the conspiracy crowd out there, who, as it turns out, tend to be mainly critical thinkers that actually are capable of doing research rather than, swallowing the CNN indoctrination. Now, I'm honestly not comfortable with having that messed with because of what it can do.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you on that. Yeah. Now, Google, I find, doesn't always give me the results I am expecting to find. And it appears that things that I remember being there 5 or 10 years ago, I can't always find anymore. I'll go back to try and find something that I remember being important, and sometimes it can be the dot connecting that's required for that bigger picture. Now, with the removal of selected information, is Google becoming a modern day book burner?
Yes. No. Certainly the actual informational disappearance, shall we say, is it's a problem. But it's not just Google. The problem is so much bigger. When you look at I don't know whether you ever use archive.org and its Wayback Machine, which is basically an archive of the history of the internet. They've been involved in a long-running court case with, who's the publisher? Barnes & Noble.
Oh.
About the archive.org library. And they've just had to remove 500,000 titles from their library because of copyright claims. Well, those 500,000 titles include classics such as 1984, coincidentally enough, but also about 3,000 titles that are actually on the banned and controversial book list. And to me, the court case was not so much about the actual copyright infringement as it was getting inconvenient information out of circulation.
Yeah.
And so Google will actively, no, excuse me, I've got a cat issue.
That's okay.
Google will actively deep six information that doesn't fit its ideological stance. And so from that point of view, the book burning is very much in evidence. Now I can actually go deeper into at the YouTube level, into that topic if you would like me to.
Yeah, I mean, Google and YouTube, wasn't one of the founding people of Google? Isn't she now the CEO of YouTube? It's all revolving doors for the very people that are trying to keep control over this, and that we'll upload this to YouTube. And my experience with YouTube is now 2 channels that have been terminated and one that's taken a couple of strikes so far. We have to, and it's unfortunate that we have to censor what we say in this day and age. But yeah, let's get into YouTube as well.
Right. Well, I mean, it was one of the Wojcicki sisters. I can't remember which was which. She's now died of turbo cancer, and her sister runs 23andMe, which is the big DNA database, which is probably just a coincidence. But yeah, the former CEO of YouTube was actually also Sergey Brin's ex-wife. So it's all quite, dare I say, incestuous. But YouTube has its own equivalent team of human fact checkers and quality checkers, the public safety team. And back in 2018, a relative of mine needed a part-time job. And so I ended up coaching him through the search quality raters, entry exams, so to speak. And I mean, you're not supposed to apply for the job or hold the position if you have any relationship to anybody that has anything to do with Google. And so we kept that fact very quiet, and he ended up passing and being accepted into the program, and they actually put him into the YouTube safety team, trust and safety. And he was one of those guys that was so anti-conspiracy theory, it was absolutely ridiculous. I mean, he didn't believe anything. As far as he was concerned, the BBC was the source of all truth. And then he started working in this team. And after a year, he actually came to me and he said, "Sasch, it's all true, isn't it?" And I went, "Yeah, it is." But the actual remit of the team is basically to enforce the consensus, and anything that doesn't go to consensus, anything that's left field, be it Kennedy assassination or medical interventions or pandemics or whatever it happens to be, it's that team's remit to actually weed it from the results. So if you've had strikes against your channel, chances are it's exactly that team that found something that was unwholesome about your presentation or content and chucked you out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, like I think the last channel, the Atlantic, we did 2 under the Atlantic Underground name, and now we've got the Truth Warrior channel, because we thought, obviously, every time we put Atlantic Underground up, it was flagging something and they were watching closely. And even to the point where we did an interview with a gentleman just about his version of events and his experience with astral traveling in his life, which I didn't think was anything sinister whatsoever, but they really didn't like him talking about that, and the fact that he had experience with astral travel. They gave us a strike, which was the termination strike. I tried to challenge it, and they just said no reason.
Oh no,
explanation why.
It's like a referee in a football match. Once the decision has been made and the red card's out, you ain't coming back.
No, that's it.
But yeah, there's a lot of human interference, and there is now listening for the watchwords, which may either get you instantly banned or at least flagged for human review, at which point the human drone will just make the call to kick you out. And it's again, they say, oh, no single reviewer can make that decision. No, but 10,000 of them all saying, aha, that doesn't conform, will do.
No. I'd like to go back to Eric Schmidt. I mean, I'm still kind of sitting here in shock that this guy has got a drone company.
Yes.
With the capabilities of what we saw in the video. Now, this guy has a lot of skeletons in the closet, but what would you say about him being part of the US Department of Defense, DARPA, and also the $100 million invest that he has in CrowdStrike, and also as well the fact that he donated $1.5 billion to the Clintons, as well as being an open checkbook for Barack Obama. Is this guy in too deep with the military-industrial complex, as well as the ability to fund and lobby politicians that are going to sway things in his favor?
Are you trying to get a third YouTube channel, Ken?
Welcome.
But right, okay, the connections are definitely there. Again, the rumors are many and varied. I mean, look at him going to Davos every year. He's very tight with all your World Economic Forum suspects. And can I talk about what the connections are? No, I can't. I don't really know. But are there connections, and is there, to my mind, an overriding agenda in play? Absolutely, 100%. I have no doubt. I'm still researching it, and I don't know. Maybe we can do a follow-up podcast at some point. Once I complete some of the research, certainly on the Nimbus and White Stork possible tie-ins, which I'm digging into right now.
Yeah, I've got a feeling they're going to connect a lot of dots.
There's a lot of dots there to be connected, and the applications, frankly, are alarming. And as I said, I'm no fan of the Israeli government and the continuing genocidal and interference policies. And definitely them having the fingers in this sort of technology makes that it gives me shivers, basically.
Yeah, no, and especially considering that Google is probably the world's biggest spy machine. And now Eric Schmidt is so in depth with the military industrial complex, the fact that he was involved with DARPA and he was elected to be part of the US Department of Defense. This, to me, are massive conflicts of interest for something which people see the likes of Google as just a general search engine and a public, service to be used. But, it really does have a dark side when we consider that it is the world's biggest spy machine. It's got to be. And I could probably lose a lot of sleep if I thought about it too much, especially when we consider that Google, I'll ask the question, are Google behind China's social credit system with something called Dragonfly?
Dragonfly comes right back to 2015. And the Sergey Brin Sundar Pichai trip to China to challenge strategy game players, because in the wake of that came again, I have to backtrack a little bit further. Back in, I think it was February 2010, Google overnight made the public decision to pull all its operations out of China because it caught state-sponsored hackers breaking into its Gmail infrastructure to try and find dissidents to then track down and punish. And Google at the time, and again, Sergey Brin was instrumental in making that decision to pull out of China, which caused the company, I think it was about $500 million in lost revenue that year.
Yeah.
Right. And so fast forward back to 2015 and Sergey Brin and Sundar Pichai going to China for this strategy thing. And all of a sudden he comes back and he goes, the CCP guys, they're not a bad bunch of lads, and maybe we should resume operations in China. Shortly followed within, I think it was about a year, by the leak. It was an insider leak that Google was developing the Dragonfly search engine for China, which was actually a censored version of Google. Now, again, you look at the human interference and the censorship of the Google wider search infrastructure in America and Europe, definitely. And you have to wonder, what's at work and how much of that. Dragonfly was discontinued in, I think, 2018. How much of that discontinued infrastructure is actually in play across the Google ecosystem now? And going back to your question about the social credit system, I don't think Google is instrumental in it. I think Google is complicit, certainly. And I think that that social credit system, which I think is in store globally, China is just and again, this is my opinion, make of it what you will, but the social credit system, they are instrumental in actually developing it.
Yeah.
Right.
China was basically the test bed for that to happen. And this is the way I see it going, you know, can see us heading, everything's in place for a central bank digital currency. Everything's in place now to spy on us, AI, information, everything in that regard. But this social credit system, I think, has just been used because this is the most likely country where they could have got away with it and had the people become subservient to having such a totalitarian overreach upon them. That at the end of the day, this was the test bed, and the people behind this certainly have intention on using it with the pushing forwards of the smart cities, the 15-minute cities, and the ability to have people locked into basically a technological invisible prison and not allow them out of it. And that's the way I see it in regards to why this has been developed there. You know, we're well aware that this new world order exists. They want a one world religion. They want a one world banking system, a one world military system. And I think the control mechanism for the humanity living within this system is this system that was developed in China as a social scoring system. And if you're not a good, obedient, subservient human being in society, and should you want to wish to criticize the government or Google or anyone else, that you will not only be lower ranked in your credit score, that you will lose entitlements to travel, lose money from your account. Even your friends and people and family who are associated will also lose credit scoring. This is so Orwellian. It is like a modern day version of something out of the 1984 book. It's just all unfolding right in front of our eyes, and it's almost like people aren't seeing it because they're just carrying on with the blinkered lives and choosing to ignore this structure that's being put around them. How are you seeing that? Are you seeing it in the same way?
If you're waiting for me to disagree, you're going to be waiting. Right. Okay. I know we're wandering off the Google reservation as far as the topic is concerned, but really now that it's come up, I don't know. You have to look at this globally, right? And first of all, the reason why most people have got the blinkered view is very much the fact that they're still gobbling up the official narrative. Google tells them what to do. Facebook tells them what to think. You know, they've got what used to be called the TV minds, you know, and newspaper brains and TV minds. And so there's still very much that the masses, for want of a better word, are still very much under the sway of the official narrative. Although I have to say, I'm seeing in the last 12 months, I'm seeing a massive swing towards an awakening. And that is good. You have to look at it globally, and you have to look at the infrastructure being put together, because your central bank digital currency and your social credit scoring system, a truly cashless society where you are surveilled 24/7 even in your most intimate moments, which is if you sleep with your Android phone on next to the bed, you are already. It's all coming to total population control, right? Because don't you want to be a good citizen, responsible? You know, it's all that they're going to get you through your ethics. And the only thing that's stopping it right now Honestly, I believe that the only thing that's stopping that takeover right now is there's only two things. Number one, a major incident like a war, a nuclear war, a global conflict, to actually scare the population into it. And number two, and this is the more important one right now, they don't have the infrastructure. Even in Orwellian Britain, the infrastructure does not yet quite exist to implement it. Yeah, they're about a year or two off, as far as I can see. Now, you transpose that to the States, you're going to have a bigger problem, because not only don't you have the infrastructure, your population's armed, right? So a disarmed population is a big one. But given another couple, I mean, they've been trying to spark a wider conflict. Well, first in Ukraine, now in Israel, right? Taiwan's bubbling. So with very little effort, they can have the conflict they need. But I personally think that they need the infrastructure in place first to actually scare the bejesus out of the population into accepting the changes.
Yeah.
You know. And
now,
yes, Google is going to be instrumental in this, because they are the guardian of the world's information, and they are no longer the big friendly librarian that they were supposed to be. They are now the draconian censor, quite frankly.
Yeah. Now, this might be truth or it might be a story, but it certainly seems to tie in with what we're discussing here, and certainly where we mentioned the involvement with China. Is there a possibility that Google itself has been infiltrated by the Chinese Communist Party using subversion techniques of blackmail and even poisoning? Because I heard something about Eric Schmidt again and his family, and the fact that one of his daughters was killed because of a withheld antidote. Apparently, Schmidt had gone to China and had dinner, and it was like a scene out of an Indiana Jones movie, where all of a sudden he's having a drink and they tell him that him and his family have just been poisoned, and they have the antidote, which they will dispense to him at regular intervals. I mean, this may be out of the conspiracy rabbit hole, I don't know, but his daughter did die suddenly. And in this day and age, I know that's nothing unusual, but, you know, information did come out that he was poisoned and his whole family was poisoned. And things did change for Schmidt after that. And things with Google changed after that. Do we know anything about this story being real, and how much is in that content? Because it would be a fantastic advantage for China as an emerging, well, I wouldn't even say emerging superpower, one of the global superpowers, to have Google under its control fully. What do we know about this? Is there anything true to this story?
So you're talking about Alison Schmidt, who died suddenly after a long illness. At least that's the official narrative. She died suddenly after a long illness. But yeah, I've heard all sorts of rumors. Is any of it true? I don't have a clue. The one thing that strikes me as odd is that there's nothing, no details surrounding her death. There's no cause of death. It's 100% opaque. Now, that could be down to the family just wanting to keep it private, and I would totally understand that. But the actual, did things change in Google? Yeah, it was around about that time. Was it the cause of that change? I have no idea. One thing I will say, I think that Mossad and Epstein had a much better control mechanism with Epstein Island and all the blackmail, than Indiana Jones style movies and poisoning you over dinner. I don't know, strikes me as a little bit, well, Indiana Jones. But is it possible? Honestly, had you asked me 2 years ago, I would have said, no, absolutely not. What are you even talking about? You ask me now, it could be. I don't know. I have no idea anymore, because so many of the things that used to be frankly preposterous have effectively been proven.
Oh yeah.
In the last few years. So is it possible? Yeah, entirely.
And we've seen it, we saw it in the UK with Russian spies being poisoned. And, this has been quite an open thing, supposed weapons like heart attack guns where they can just stab somebody with a needle and, and even cancer, there's always talks about cancer and things with the likes of Bob Marley and stuff over the years. We know that the technology is certainly, in my eyes, far more advanced than we're ever allowed to know. I mean, if you had to take a guess of how far advanced technology actually is in comparison to what we see on a daily basis, what would you say?
15, 20 years, I guess.
Right.
I guess, but I mean, just going back to just the narrative, okay, and what we are spoon-fed by the media, I'm a digital forensics guy. I've been the disaster recovery guy for a dozen years or more, and I know how much effort and time goes into an investigation, even for a corporation going, who sabotaged us? Yeah. Without going into any detail, who sabotaged it? And I know it can take me 3 months, 4 months to get to the bottom of it, to the point where I can confidently say, well, it was probably him, or it was probably them, or it was a competitor, or whatever it happens to be, right? I don't randomly find passports in the street 3 hours after the event and go, well, it was obviously him. That's not how forensics works, okay? And so,
I know what you mean.
to me, the time between the incident and the official announcement that we know who did it and why is inversely proportional to the validity, accuracy, and truth of the information they're trying to get you to swallow, right? It's thorough investigation takes time.
Yeah.
And then there are no exceptions, X does not mark the spot, and a hunch does not normally pay off.
No, I can well imagine. Now, with your forensic side and background of this, is the forensics more to see where the likes of cyber attacks and things have got into systems that shouldn't be in there? And with cyber attacks, we had things with the likes of the World Economic Forum performing something called Cyber Polygon. And Cyber Polygon was a dry run, very similar to the dry run of Event 201 that we saw them do. Are cyber attacks something that we know are out there and can happen? What is the potential worst case scenario with cyber attacks? And is it just an eventuality that this will happen and be used as a weapon against humanity to maybe change the course of history moving forward for the benefit of the very few that control this?
The global information infrastructure is actually frighteningly fragile. It really is. Even to get to the continental United States level, you only have to take down a handful of nodes, and most of the continent goes dark. And what's more, you can just throw the switch and blame a solar flare. So there is that. Can it be weaponized? Can it be used? Yes, absolutely. There's no question about it. The problem I see, I won't say I haven't thought about it, because I have. If you're in this sector, in this milieu, you're going to think about cyber attacks and information outages. And I deal with a lot of sabotage, and I do a lot of whodunit detective work. But as far as it goes, if you were to suddenly do your 10 days of darkness information blackout, you're just going to switch the whole thing off. First of all, you're going to have to switch off Starlink as well. Although, Starlink is only so much if the rest of your information is physically dead in the water. But in doing so, if a bad actor were to actually have the power and the control to switch the whole thing off, they're switching off their own communications as well. Yeah. Right? And that's only going to go so far. So you're not going to do it permanently. You're only going to do it, to my mind, if you're going to do it, you're going to do it limited and in segments here and there, rather than just make the whole planet go dark for an indefinite amount of time, because you're hampering yourself. But to actually say, can technology and our reliance on technology be weaponized against us? Absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind.
With the existing system in place for the internet, are you aware of anything that is in the background being built that could be a replacement for the internet?
Again, there are rumors. There are rumors of alternative communications infrastructures, and again, just going back to the point where the technology in the military and whatnot sectors are a dozen, 20 years, whatever ahead of us. Again, I can't say. It's entirely possible. Certainly, the existing internet information infrastructure is getting a bit long in the tooth. I would be very surprised if somebody wasn't working on it. How that would actually manifest and look like in real terms, I don't know. I do not know.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to wrap this up now, but obviously people are probably watching this, never really want to go to Google again and have their information gathered, listened to, and probed. What alternative safe solutions are available for people to use when accessing a search engine these days?
It's kind of a tough one, because obviously the tracking and tracing is all permeating, and having true privacy online is, I'm not going to say it's impossible. It's difficult. It's very difficult, and it requires a fundamentally altered approach to your day-to-day existence, online. I mean, I keep seeing Tor, the Tor browser, being mentioned for, true anonymity. Well, the NSA actually has Operation Epic Fail, which is solely dedicated to tracking down people that use Tor and aren't doing it properly, of which, it's 80% plus of Tor users are it's just a placebo because they're not taking all the precautions. And so if you want, and again, it depends, if you're looking for clown porn, why do you want total privacy? Because everybody's doing it, kind of thing. Yeah, see what I mean? So if you have just a normal, you're looking at the alternative media, you have no real, need to actually go proper military grade privacy. Yeah, normal privacy measures will do it. If, on the other hand, you're trying to actually physically, organize against the system, then yeah, you need to take the relevant precautions.
Yeah.
Which again is far too much to go into during the scope of one podcast. Maybe we can do a follow-up, and I can actually outline that. Yeah. For the moment, if you're actually looking for free speech, use a VPN, although the NSA can decrypt most VPNs in real time, and start using Yandex, yandex.com, yandex.com as your search engine, which is currently the least censored of all the sort of commoner garden search providers. But again, see there, the searchscape, the uncensored searchscape is extremely fragile, with Yandex pretty much the only source of information. And whether you're looking for pandemic, for injections, for Holocaust information, for whatever it happens to be, you're far more likely to find it on Yandex than you ever will on Google, which is now so groomed you can't do it. If you're looking for free speech, then really gab.com, GAB.com, is about the only platform where it's uncensored. If your speech is, it's basically, if your speech is protected by the First Amendment, it's protected by GAP. And so it can be a bit of a horror show because it is free speech. Yeah, and again, from the techie perspective, we're not really as humans used to free speech anymore, because we have been conditioned to moderate and censor ourselves to the point where we don't really speak our mind. Yeah, and so to actually suddenly wander into a free speech environment where no holds barred, yeah, that can be intimidating when you first do it. It was certainly a paradigm shift for me. And then on the video front, as much as I hate to say it, BitChute is pretty much your only uncensored option because it's user funded and it's not in the pocket of big tech. I mean, even Rumble, although Rumble tends to be a much more civilized platform, you know, it's got BlackRock and Apple and all sorts of usual suspects in the financial mix, and sooner or later they're going to go, you can't say that, you know.
Yeah. So BitChute's probably the better option than Rumble in that regards.
Yes. And I mean, again, I subscribe to BitChute. I give them their money every month. The platform needs to be kept alive because it's the only thing that's reasonably free. And that, again, that gets seen by the amount of attacks, whether they be denial of service attacks or just troll bot comment attacks that are happening on BitChute, which aren't happening anywhere else, you know, because they can't control it, so they have to try to destroy it at that level.
Yeah. I'll bring up one more thing before we go, and that's the recent arrest. And we're talking about freedom of speech and the ability to have free speech. But we just recently saw the arrest of the Telegram guy going to France. Now, I always look at things with an open mind as to what's happening here. I found it a very strange place for him to go to and get a passport for in the first place, because many yellow vest liberators in France would tell you that it's not a particularly freedom-friendly place, and the things that I've seen there over the past 5 years certainly prove that. You know, was this a publicity stunt? Was this purposeful? Is this him possibly handing control of the company over to more clandestine organizations? And his arrest may have been the excuse for that to happen. I really don't know a lot about it, but to me, something does not seem right when I look at the whole background and picture of what's gone on. What are your thoughts on that?
In a word, I have no idea. But certainly the charges leveled against him seem to be very convenient, given the, you know, what's going on in the alternative news media and what's being talked about. I use Telegram, and I've done a little bit of research into Telegram as a platform, and he's been very vocal about not handing over the backdoor keys to the encryption. But again, a few years ago, Telegram ran into funding problems, and they made the sale of the Telegram bonds to actually get the funding for the thing. And that sale was 100% totally opaque. Yeah, nobody knows. Now, again, I can see there being reasons to actually keep the legitimate funding sources quiet, but I can also see there being reasons to keep that opaque, to, you know, to show that bad actors were involved. Do I trust Telegram as a platform 100%? No, absolutely not. And I haven't done for some time.
Yeah.
Is he a good guy? I don't know. I can't tell you. The circumstances of the arrest, the subsequent events, what's gone down, raises eyebrows. And again, like you, I don't know what to make of it at this stage. I intend to look into it some more, but I only have so many research hours in any given day, in any given week, and it hasn't been very high on my to-do list. But frankly, there's other far more interesting and potentially impactful things to research, such as White Stork and Nimbus, you know, which again, I will delve into that and see what I can find. And it may be nothing, I don't know, but I doubt it.
No, it
But
doesn't sound
again,
like
I'll let you know if and when I find something, and maybe we can do a follow up. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to do a follow-up with White Stork and Nimbus and certainly a lot of other things that could be looked at far more in depth. And, you know, I think we've only just scratched the surface
Yes,
here
we have.
today to give people an idea of what's really going on. And I think to give more in-depth information, we will most definitely have to do some further interviews with yourself if you're available. And yeah, we'll get something together there. Is there anything that you want to leave us with today that you think people should be aware of that we may have missed within the conversation?
I think no, I think as an introduction, we pretty much covered it all. The one thing I will say is the whole, you know, economic breakdown, central bank digital currency end of things, and how Google and the surveillance and population control fits into that. Is I would like, if there's anybody in the economic sphere that's actually watching, I would like a capable economist that's aware and has the finger on the pulse to maybe get in touch with me, so we can tackle this not only from the technological end but from the economic end together.
Yeah.
Because only then will we have. I'm relatively up to date with the economic developments, but again, it's not my field. So only by getting those two facets together,
Yeah,
are we going to be able to build a picture that maybe allows us to see what's actually coming in real terms, you know?
yeah. So, you know, based on what you're asking for there, we'll just ask the audience and the viewers now. If anyone can contact us and let us know, ideally, I think somebody like Whitney Webb might be an ideal collaboration to discuss this. I've got a couple of people within the financial side, but she seems to be far more advanced in her ability and knowledge and mind for that side of things. And maybe we can put two and two together with her and come up with some answers for people. So if anyone has a good contactability, or if somebody even wants to send this video to Whitney Webb to have a look at, we would like to speak to you. We would like to interview you. And with the collaboration of your information and what you have and what she has, maybe we can open up a whole new can of worms and take a look and see what that looks like. So once again, Sasch, yeah, go ahead.
1 second. That's just made me think, because again, coming back to the whole infrastructure, the control mechanisms and the infrastructure required to actually obtain population control, I think we've probably got outside 2 years. From my own personal perspective, we've probably got 2 years, and it's time to actually get together and see what we can do to stop this draconian takeover of our planet.
Yeah.
So it's time to stop being just, you know, the keyboard warriors shouting at each other on social media, and actually take action.
That's it.
And become activists rather than keyboard warriors.
Yeah. Every single person out there is accountable for themselves. And every single person out there has a voice and has the ability to get the likes of this interview and other information out there that they're well aware of. But if people are not sharing this information, if people feel embarrassed to share the information, or if people feel fear of sharing this information, I would say that the fear of what's possibly coming down the lines within the next 2 years is far greater than opening your mouth up right now. Because as far as I can see, opening your mouth up now, sharing these things, speaking about it publicly, really expressing your personal views and finding out the truth of what's going on in the world around you could be the saving grace of what we're facing here. So people, this is no time to be sitting back expecting somebody in a political sense to come and save you, because they're not coming to save you. If people think something's coming back on a biblical sense to save you, that's not going to happen either. Might prove me wrong, I don't know. But at the end of the day, you are responsible now for saving your own backside. And this is what I'm telling everyone. We have to speak out, because with this many people in the world and so very few trying to control us, our voice is the most powerful weapon we have, which is why they've been trying to silence us for so long now. And the more we speak out, and the more we inform other people, and the more we take the people that we love under our arm and explain to them what's going on, and tell them that if we all stick together, it's going to be all right, because I do believe that that is what we can do. And together we can make a change. And it's people like you coming forward with information and answering the questions that we have here today that makes things like this possible. So I really do have to thank you from the bottom of my heart that you've come on today to talk to us about this. So thanks again, Sasch. This has been absolutely incredible.
You're more than welcome.
As we always say here on the Atlantic Underground podcast, believe nothing and question everything. And until next time, thank you so much again, and we'll all talk to you soon. Thanks again, Sasch.
Cheers. Catch you later.
Take care, and don't forget, everyone, share this information, get it out there, take your foot out your mouth and start speaking your truth, because this is the only thing that's going to save us. Thanks, everyone. Bye now.